Is there life after Iowa? I think there is, but it's different for different candidates. Start with the Republican side. Ted Cruz scored a smashing victory in Iowa, overcoming all expectations and overcoming a drowning out din of negative coverage from the media in the week to 10 days before the caucuses. If you read any of the media, the Des Moines Register, the biggest paper in Iowa, said Cruz staggers toward caucus day. And the knives are all out for Cruz at the debate. And everybody was dumping all over him. And yet he performed very well, beat any of the polls, and really showed his strength and viability as a candidate. Now he enters New Hampshire behind Trump, considerably behind Trump. In most of the polls, 10 to 15 points back. And while he could lose New Hampshire and still be very viable on the strength of the Iowa win, it would be incredible if he were able to win it. And that then brings us to the issue of Donald Trump. Trump has to prove that his vote is real, that it exists. On caucus night, they didn't show up, just as Donald didn't show up in the debate. Now, was it because they were alienated because Donald did not go to the debate and clearly that hurt him? Or didn't they exist in the first place? Trump consistently polled in the low to mid 30s. Some polls even had him in the high 30s. One poll had him at 39, and he gets 25. When there's that kind of a fall off, there has to be a reason. And the reason, I believe, is not that the voters soured on Trump. It's that people were saying they were voting for Trump who weren't voters to begin with. Now, obviously, the fall off in a caucus is going to be much greater than in a primary, because voting in a primary is somewhat simpler. But there still will be a fall off. Now, if Trump is genuinely 10 to 15 points ahead of Cruz, he probably can cruise, pardon the pun, to a New Hampshire victory. But if those votes prove as phantom as his lead in the caucus proved, he can't. And if Cruz wins Iowa and New Hampshire, he's very close to making the whole thing go for him. But don't count Trump out. We see the crowds that come out for him. We see the strength of his rhetoric. We see his ability to play the media. And don't count Trump out. He still could win in New Hampshire, could win decisively, and could become a major factor in the rest of the race. Rubio had a surge because the establishment wanted him to have a surge. Fox News was shameless in its coverage, constantly pushing Rubio. When you watch Fox tonight, think Rubio and see how biased the network really is. And that's basically because Rupert Murdoch wants Rubio. And that's what's causing all of this throughout Fox. Frank Luntz said his focus group showed that Rubio won, whereas in fact, obviously, Cruz did best in that debate. Look at the outcome. Now, Rubio did move up. He had been polling around 12 or 14, then he moved up to 15 to 18, and he finished strong at 23% of the vote, clearly becoming a factor in the race. Now in New Hampshire, Trump is in the low 30s, Cruz at about 12 or 13, and Rubio at about 9 or 10. And Rubio obviously is going to move up as a result of New Hampshire, just like Cruz is. The question is, can Rubio come on strong and either beat Trump or finish second to him? He said his goal was to finish third in Iowa, second in New Hampshire, and first in South Carolina. Will he be able to finish second? Well, he has two big problems. One is amnesty. He recently said, just the other day, that he does not regret supporting the Gang of Eight bill. He said that was the best we could do, and that bill overtly calls for amnesty and admits 3 times as many refugees as we have in the past, and all kinds of foreign high-skilled workers. It's a terrible bill, and defending it's going to be tough for him. Also, when we look at his personal finances, you're going to find a bunch of stories there that are not positive to him. I doubt Rubio's power to stay and to win, but we'll see. He certainly has a good deal of momentum at this point. But on March 1st, we have Ted Cruz territory. Texas is 152 of the 700 delegates selected that day. Texas, by the way, is about 10% or 12% of the total you need to win the election, to win the nomination. And the bunch of southern and border states are voting, where Cruz should do very well. So we'll see about the Republican fight, but don't count Trump out yet. Now, on the Democratic side, Hillary managed to eke out a tie in a caucus she was favored to win for month after month after month. And it shows a tremendous weakness in Hillary's base. One of the problems is that all of the voters Hillary needs to get in the general election voted for Sanders. He carried those under 30 by 80% of the vote. He carried those 30 to 40 by about 60% of the vote. And Obama's margin against Romney was entirely among voters under the age of 35. If nobody under 35 voted, Romney would be president today. And her record in getting young voters is terrible. Now, there's this assumption that Hillary can lose Iowa or a tie, lose New Hampshire, which she probably will, win South Carolina, which she probably will because of the large black vote, and then on Super Tuesday, March 1st, win enough states to really have a firewall. And that's because of her support among African Americans. But there are really only 2 states on March 1st that, along with South Carolina, which is earlier, have large enough black populations to give Hillary a firewall, Georgia and Alabama. All of the rest of the states either have almost no black population or around 10%, and that's not enough to dominate statewide results. So after Sanders wins New Hampshire, I think he will have tremendous momentum going into Super Tuesday, and I think he will again surprise people on Super Tuesday with how well he's able to do in really big states. I'm sorry that video ran a little long, but I had a lot to say. But I have much more to say. And later today, I'm going to be cutting a new podcast audio recording, which will be about half an hour or 45 minutes, in depth about my thinking about both of these elections in each of these states. And we'll really dissect it in a way we don't have time to do now. So it's on now. Click on the link adjoining this video, and you'll get the podcast, and you'll see my thoughts in depth about this. Or go to dickmorris.com to see it. Go to iTunes, or go to podcastone.com. PODCASTONE.com. Thanks for watching.